Every life journey comes with a challenge. Our inability to juggle our personal, financial, and professional lives could derail us from achieving our optimal selves. How can we become more decisive? Hi, my name is Dr. Jeffrey T. Evans. With several degrees in healthcare and business management that I have obtained over the years, I realized an important lesson. Preparation is the key. Chances for success in finishing the journey would be greatly enhanced if the trials and tribulations of the journey were known before the journey began. In my book, Considering the Journey, One Doctor's Perspective, I highlighted some of the most important lessons for success. Welcome to Journey 2, the podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this podcast at. Today, my name is Jeffrey T. Evans, Dr. Jeffrey T. Evans, author of the book, Considering the Journey, One Doctor's Perspective, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, Journey 2. This is my third podcast, and I feel like I'm learning more and more as I continue to do these podcasts. I've never done these before, so I'm on a journey as well to try to learn how to do a podcast, do a good podcast, and make it effective so my listeners can get something out of it and make those tough decisions and have a good basis for why they made those decisions and how to hang in there. Like I said, this is my third podcast, and I feel like I'm learning more and more as I continue along this trail. I've covered a synopsis of my book in my last podcast, so I'm going to go ahead today and continue reviewing my book by diving into the chapters that make up the book. I chose Chapter 5, Motivation and Advice. I feel motivation plays a major role in just about anything we do, and especially what we pursue. You got to have some degree of motivation in order to step off or to begin your journey. Once you're on the journey, you have to have some type of motivation to keep you going and to keep pushing you. Because you get on a journey, and a lot of people do what we call New Year's resolutions. They have a plan that they're going to go to the fitness center and they're going to lose 20 pounds. Somehow that motivation drops off after about the third week, and they never accomplish their goal because they're not motivated to go back anymore. So they drop it. And motivation in such an endeavor like going after a PhD or a doctorate or any type of degree takes patience, takes time, and things that you need to hang in there in order to accomplish the goal that you're shooting for. Motivation plays a role in our everyday lives. When you get up in the morning, are we motivated to accomplish the things that we have planned for the day? Well, let's look at it, okay? Our health, our state of mind, are we happy? Are we sad? Are we mad? The weather outside, the amount of sleep that you got last night, your partner's attitude can all affect your motivation today in trying to get something done. The weather outside, it could be gloomy outside, and you may have had a plan to do something outside today. That can shoot an arrow right through your motivation. You can look at your state of mind. What was your state of mind when you went to bed last night? What was your state of mind when you were thinking about doing this pursuit of a challenge? State of mind has a lot to do with your motivation. Your health has a lot to do with it. You may not feel like it. I can tell you from personal experience, my voice sounds really heavy right now, and the reason being is because I have something upper respiratory going on that I've had going on since the beginning of September. I had COVID in September, and it lasted about 3 or 4 days, and when I finally was negative on my test, my body didn't feel like I was negative, and I continued to have upper respiratory type of symptoms, stuffy noses, coughing, headaches, things like that. And believe me, it stuck a stake in any motivational thing that I may have planned to do. I've been trying to teach myself how to use cameras, to learn how to use digital photography, to learn how to use a camera and how to make good pictures. But because of my health, my state of health, and basically my state of mind, neither one were there, and I haven't opened a book now in about 3 months. And that wasn't the original plan when I bought the course and I bought the book. The course, the plan was to go ahead and push through it. The motivation was that I had a nice expensive camera that I wanted to learn how to use, and everything was in place. And then I got sick. So your health, your state of mind, your feelings, your happiness, the weather outside can all play an important role in how your motivation pays out during the day. Also, how much sleep did you get? How many have gone to bed, felt good, and you middle of the night you wake up, you're hot, you're coughing, you're tossing and turning, you can't get back to sleep. The next day you wake up and you don't even know if you went to sleep, and you spent most of the night tossing and turning. And you wake up and you don't really feel like doing anything that you had planned because you're drained, you have no energy, your mindset is just off because you're not feeling good, and your motivation can definitely wane under certain circumstances like that. Motivation can also come in different ways, i.e., when a team loses more than they win. I used to be a Pop Warner football coach, and we have a system. We have a game that we play a season of about 10 games, and you get into your 6th and 7th game, and you have a negative record. You're 3-4, or you're 2-5, or something like that. 2 wins, 5 losses, and the team just loses motivation to practice. You start losing motivation to be there. I know you probably seen it in the NFL when a team gets to the end of the season, and I won't mention the team's names, but they get to the end of the season and their record is 2-14, and they got one more game left. There's no motivation for them to play. There's no reason for them to be there other than the fact they get paychecks. They get a big fat paycheck for being out there. So that's pretty much the only motivation that they may have in order to keep them going. So motivation comes in all different types of shades, and it can affect you in many different ways. Of course, you have one or two that stay with the game. Like if you're coaching football, you have one or two of your players that kind of stay with the program because they're motivated by other things and they continue to play on. But for the majority of your team, just might sag and you might not get to your goal. Motivation is also a long-term challenge. In a PhD program or a doctorate program, which my book is about, it can take you anywhere between 4 to, and I've heard people saying 8 years. I say 4 to 6 years, 4 to 7. It took me 6.5 to finish. And you got to have something that motivates you, that every time you look at that computer, or every time you look at an assignment, or every time you start thinking about working on your dissertation, you got to have something that makes you sit down. Makes you sit down in front of that computer, because you can procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate and you never get it done. So you got to really put your mind on something that motivates you in order to get things done. I used to have a story that I used to tell my sons, and it goes something like this. A farmer has to be a motivated businessman, basically, because he starts his crop. He starts preparing his crop in the spring. You got to prepare I'm not a farmer now, so don't get me wrong, but you got to start preparing your soil in order to put your seeds in. Then you got to put your seeds in, and then you got to start watering it. And as you water it, over time, your crop will grow. And then come harvest time, you got to go out and cut down your corn or your hay or whatever it is your product is, and you harvest it and you sell it to whatever distributor that sells your food. Well, it's not like it's not like shake and bake like the internet. You just in February I figure like I want some corn and I want it done by September, and I'm not going to do anything but procrastinate and kick back and relax and not do anything. Well, nothing's going to get done in September when it comes time to harvest if you don't work along the way. So that's just an example of what I've used with my kids. I used to teach my kids. I had 3 sons, and I used to teach my sons that in order to accomplish a goal in life, you have to set the goal. You have to get motivated to do it. You have to persist and push through your goal until you can finish it. You have to rely on your motivation to pick you up from time to time, and as you progress through your journey. When those nights hit you and you just don't feel like working, you got to come up with some game plan that's going to fill your brain cells and get you going when the going gets tough. For me, excuse me, the challenge was to prove to myself that I could do it. I motivated myself by wanting my mother to see me graduate with a doctorate and to fulfill her dreams of her son getting an education. My family emphasized education when we were young. I chose to go in the Navy after graduation, which was not exactly what my mom wanted me to do, which was fine. It was okay. She told me I had three choices. I either go to school, I get a job, or I go in the military. And I chose the military. I could tell she wanted to see me get a degree, or she wanted to see me go to school, because that was just something that had been ingrained in her family, and she ingrained it in ours. I chose not to do that, and my motivation to go back to school was to accomplish the goal. Even though I chose my path, I also wanted to accomplish what my mother wanted me to do as well. She instilled it in me when I was younger, and my game plan was to try to keep up with what she wanted to see as time went on. And I went for it as much as I could, so I had to keep on pushing on that. So my big motivation was to finish before my mother closed her eyes for good. Now, she was 82 years old when I started, so the clock was already ticking. I finished when she was 89 years old, and she was there when I got hooded and walked across the stage. It was a real big accomplishment for me, because obviously I was going against Father Time. I was going against my mother's ability to stay alive. She, God bless her, didn't have any medical conditions that warranted that she would not make it to 89. She did pass away at the age of 94. But she got a chance to see me accomplish the goal that she always wanted for me to do. From the day I went in the military, she wanted to see me get an education. And she would always kind of put that in the story, in the storyline, or she'd probably add that in. And in fact, when I told her I was getting ready to go back to school when I was 51 or 52 at the time, she thought I was crazy. She said, "Why are you doing this? You don't need to do this. You don't need an education at this time of your life. Now it's time to enjoy." But I had it ingrained in me. It's deep inside me. If you read my book, in the beginning of my book, I talk about a situation that happened when I was in first grade. My mom, I brought home my report card, and my mom did not like what she saw. I had all B's. I was a B student, and my sister, who she compared me to at the time, was an all A student. She was 4 years older than me, and my mother was accustomed and just had always seen A's on a report card. And then when little Jeffrey came home with B's, she did not know how to relate to that. So I caught it right from first grade. I got to do better in school. So that was my motivation. It was to make sure that I could walk across that stage before my mother closed her eyes for the last time, and I accomplished that goal. And that was a motivation that kept me going for a long time. That pushed me, because if the going got tough, I would just think that if something happened to Mom, she's not going to see this, so I got to push it. So her picture and my graduation picture with her in it is hanging on the wall in my living room right now. She, God bless her soul, she made it. So my other motivation was for my sons to see me set a big goal and to work hard to finish it. I wanted them to see that you can go through it because they could relate to their own flesh and blood doing it. If they saw their father doing it, then maybe they realized, wow, I can do it. Young kids look at their parents. If you're over 40, you're old. So they looked at me as being an old man. Old man's going back to school, and if he can do it, then I can do it. So I wanted to be a role model for my sons, so that they can see that if you set a goal, if it's achievable, you can achieve it. You just gotta go for it. You can't procrastinate. You don't want to go through life without making goals. And I used to always teach my sons, you need to make them goals and pursue those goals in order for you to have a fruitful life or a good life. In my Navy career, I mentored a lot of young sailors in their careers. I tried to motivate those who had talent but didn't realize they had it. I was enlisted for 11 years, and my goal was to get commissioned one day. And I transferred to the Philippines when I had 8 years. And at that particular time, I decided that before I came home from the Philippines, I wanted to have my bachelor's degree. And at the time, I had an associate's. I wanted to have an application in for an officer's program, and I wanted to be a first class. I was second class when I went there. I accomplished all those goals, and I literally accomplished those goals 5 days before I transferred out of the Philippines. My motivation was time. My motivation was money, time and money. If I get this application in and I accomplish everything I need to do, then I could get picked up as an officer and I can get commissioned, and that's more money. Then once I did get commissioned, I did at the 11-year mark. I used my experience to help other sailors, to mentor sailors to come along as they came along in their careers, so they could do better. Excuse me. I use different approaches depending on how they learned them. Some people learn by talking. Some people learn by pictures. Some people learn by discussion back and forth. Some people you can hand a book to and they can learn from that. So I came up with what I call the TAN philosophy. The TAN philosophy is in my book. It's more in depth in my book, but I'm gonna cover it briefly here just so you get some idea of what I'm talking about. The TAN philosophy is TAN. TAN doesn't mean it's an acronym, but the TANN all stand for something. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the T stands for take a negative thing and turn it positive. The A stands for always stay a step ahead. And N stands for never let them see you sweat, but let them know when you're mad. So let me talk a little bit more about that. So take a negative thing and turn it positive. So how many times have you seen somebody get upset with something, and something the boss says, something that a wife did or a husband did, something that a kid did, something that a car crash or accident on the way home, or just something, and they get so upset that they just go off. They start punching walls. In the military, you see guys punching walls, and they just get so upset, and especially if it's a boss, and you verbalize something back towards the boss that you shouldn't have, and that you regretted saying to that person. Well, in take a negative thing and turn it positive, what I mean by that is something really gets under your skin, gets you really upset. Walk away from that source and go to do something to burn off that negative energy. Turn that energy positive. For me, I used to lift weights, and when I was in the Navy. Obviously, I don't do it anymore, but I did it when I was in the Navy. And if I had a bad day at work, or I had something go on at work or whatever, I would go to the gym and I would pump iron more and more. I'd add on pounds. If I was benching 150 or 160, that particular day I would try my next 170. I would turn that negative energy into something positive, so that it would benefit me, not destroy me or not hurt me, but benefit me. I would turn it around, turn it positive. Again, in my Navy career, I had a really dark moment when I was stationed in Subic Bay. I'm not going to elaborate on it, but it really it could have affected my career had I had done the wrong thing and went negative instead of positive. That particular day that this particular thing happened, I had a mentor there that pulled me aside. I went to his house that day. We sat down, we talked for hours. Literally hours. It was about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning when we finished talking, and we started talking around 5 o'clock that night. And basically what he told me was, turn this positive. People don't care about your attitude. People don't care about what you're upset about. Turn it positive to work for you. So to make a long story short, I went from a disgruntled first class petty officer working in my office to within 6 months I was nominated for Sailor of the Quarter at the hospital I was at. And then a couple months later I was nominated for Sailor of the Year, which I did make Sailor of the Year. And then I was nominated for Sailor of the Year for the whole Philippine Command, what we call US NAV Phil, Commander of U.S. Naval Forces Philippines, and I made Sailor of the Year there for 1983. 6 months prior to that, I was really ticked off, upset, ready to shoot everybody that said anything to me. But because my mentor taught me, take it and turn it positive for you, I did. I took my attitude, stuffed it away. How I felt, I didn't convey that to people. I kept my feelings to myself. I did my job. I showed it for work in a sharp uniform, shiny shoes, nice haircut, the military thing, and I did my job. and it turned positive for me. And I learned that if I could turn things positive, they would work for me. I could use that energy. On a dissertation, to take a negative thing and turn it positive would be in your work on your dissertation. That may take you 2 to 3 years. It can be very negative at times. You have 3 people, committee members, a chair, and 2 committee members who are correcting your work. I mean, every page that you do, and you may get 10 pages back with, I mean, literally 100 plus corrections on it, and you may get contradicting corrections on it. And it can be very frustrating because you're putting everything you got into this, and it can be very frustrating when people send it back to you to tell you to change it. But I would advise you strongly, do not take it personal. Do not take it personal. Take that negative thing and turn it positive. Turn it positive as quick as you can. Get those corrections done and send it back to them. And I've talked to several people who get upset during their dissertation and ready to argue with their committee. And I tell you, don't argue with them. Just do what they say. And trust me, it makes life a lot easier. Incidentally, in my book, I have a chapter on dissertation process, and I go into depth on that. Okay, the second thing, always stay a step ahead. That's an easy one. Anticipate. Anticipate what the next move is and get there. Try to figure out what it is your boss wants to accomplish that day or wants to get done. Or, if you work in an office and the office is dirty, clean it. Because it's going to come out of your boss's mouth. We need you guys to clean this office up before you leave today. Or something at home or whatever. But just the big thing is always stay a step ahead. Anticipate. I used to always tell my sons too that managers don't go to training to learn how to discipline people. You generally have to learn that on the fly because that's not part of your job. So if you're going to stay off the bad list with your boss, anticipate what your boss is looking for, and get it done. That way you stay on the positive side. In the dissertation process, again, just don't procrastinate. If you procrastinate, you're going to find yourself behind that 8 ball, and you don't want to do that if you can help it. Get it done. Whatever it is you got to get done, get it done. Do not procrastinate it, and try to stay a step ahead of it. The end. Never let them never let them know you're mad. Never let them see you sweat, but let them know when you're mad. What that means is be careful what you ask for. Don't waste your time and energy getting upset about small things. Treat this like the genie that gives you 3 wishes in the 3 wishes. Consider that you have 3 times to make your issues known if you get mad. I used to always consider one of my coworkers. When I went into a new office, I'd always look around and see, all right, who's the person that doesn't get upset about things? And I would look at that person as my barometer. I didn't tell them that, but that was my barometer for the motivation and what was going on in that room at the time, the morale that was going around in that room at the time, or in that office. And if that person got upset, then I knew there was something I needed to really pay attention to. If that person didn't get upset about it, then it was probably something that didn't really need my attention and would work itself out. So, in other words, if you are one of those types of people that get upset about everything and you got to go tell your superiors or your subordinates or your husband or your wife or something, and you get upset all the time, eventually they're gonna blow you off. You heard that story about about crying wolf. Don't blow that horn if you don't need it. We'll come and help you, but don't blow that horn unless you need it. And they went off and blew the horn and came running, and went back and waited again and blew the horn a second time. They came running. The third time the wolf came and they blew the horn and blew the horn and blew the horn. Nobody showed up. So you can kind of use that story, that little story to help you out with look at things. You're going to sweat things. You're going to be upset about things, but you don't necessarily always have to voice your opinion about it. You don't necessarily have to put it on paper. My example there was when I worked on my dissertation. The issue I ran into was I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but the midpoint, you have to have an ethics board look at what you're doing in your research. And if you do your research and it affects an ethical group or it affects a custom or something like that, they're not going to let you do it if you're researching on humans. And so you can't. You got to be careful about that. But anyways, that particular time in my degree took me about six to 8 months when it should have taken me about 2 weeks. And that was a trying time. I finally did get a little upset about it, and when I finally got upset about it, I had to talk to my chair. My chair had to talk to the dean, and had to get something done. But I was trying not to get upset about something that it may have been an oversight on somebody's part. I don't know. But I didn't want to get upset because, once you get upset, people start kind of putting you in another category. And if you get put in a category that might not benefit you, might not be a good place to be. So, I say all that to say is in this situation, to keep yourself motivated, pick something that can get you up, get you going. Pick something that's worth your while. Pick something that at the end you will know that you accomplished a goal, and thanks to that kept you going. Because had you not had something like that, you would have dropped off, and you probably would have never finished what you were trying to accomplish. So, I would say that the motivational factor in life, like I said, when you get out of bed in the morning, depends on how you slept last night. Depends on the attitude of your partner. It depends on the situation you're dealing with today. If you don't have money to buy something today, oh well, you'll have money later if you save a little bit of money. But keep yourself motivated to do things, to accomplish goals, and to keep going. If you don't, the other side of that is not good. I say not good because you spend time. Time is our friend. We got to use time very wisely, because if you don't use your time, you're going to lose out on it. And if you lose out on it, then you're not going to accomplish that goal because you didn't pace yourself to do it the way you're supposed to. The learning cameras that I told you about, I've already lost probably a year on that because I just wasn't in the right mind for it, and I probably could be shooting nice pictures and possibly doing portraits for people or whatever. But now I'm not doing any of that because I did about a month of studies in the book, put the book down, and I should have kept going. It's a 4-month course, and I should have kept on going. I just wasn't motivated to keep on going, and I put it down. So, anyhow, that brings me close to the end of my podcast. As I told you earlier, this is my 3rd podcast, and I'm learning how to do this. If you know any suggestions, my email address is my website is www.drjtevans.com, and in the comment section, put something in the comment section and send it to me, and I'll be glad to look at it, take it under advisement, and try to pump this podcast up a little bit. I've been listening to other podcasts, and I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit. I hope maybe you guys could tell me better, but I'm hoping I'll get the hang of it. Hopefully by my contract of 12 podcasts, maybe by the 12th podcast, I'll be doing a super bang-up job by that time, I hope. So, anyhow, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you got something, some of my experience may help you, and that you've learned something from it, and that you can carry that on in your own personal life and run with it and accomplish your goals. So, with that, I'm gonna bid you all farewell until my next podcast. May God bless you all, and take care of yourselves, and hang in there. Out.